Hello and welcome back. Oftentimes, when we look at BMI calculator, the BMI calculator calculates the BMI value and prints the BMI value as an output to the user. However, they do not show what the value means and what it actually trying to tell us about our weight. In that sense, there is very little practical application to the software. In this tutorial, we will learn how to create an improved BMI calculator that will not only show typical BMI value, but also show the normal body weight range for a given height, whether we are underweight, overweight, and what needs to be done to get the weight to be normal range, if not already in the normal range. This will make the BMI output friendlier as well as give a practical purpose to the BMI calculator. So let's get started. A body mass index or BMI is WHO recommended index of body weight given a height. It is commonly used to classify overweight and obesity for both men and women age 18 and older. It is defined as a person's weight in kilograms divided by height in meters to the power 2. So that is basically how we calculate BMI. In adults, overweight is defined as BMI of 25 or more, whereas obesity is BMI of 30 or more. We'll start with a sequential program that calculates BMI and prints the suggestions, and then from there we will convert that into a functional programming with user-defined functions out of that same code. So what our code needs to do is get two user inputs. First would be height in centimeter, and that would be using input function. We will ask for your height in centimeters. So the user will input the height. We can make a copy of this and do the same thing for weight. Instead of height, we will ask weight in kilograms. Now we could have prompted the user input in meters instead of centimeters, but I'm just showing you the alternate way. And because the user input was in centimeters, we need to change that into meters. So instead of centimeters, meters equals height in centimeters divided by 100. And that should give us a height in meters from the user input. Now after that we need to calculate the BMI. For that we will take the weight. This weight is in kg, not centimeter. That doesn't make sense. So we'll say kg and kg here divided by height in meters to the power 2. Now because the input function takes actual user input and returns as a string value, we are getting this warning here because we are trying to calculate using string values. So first we need to cast those as float numbers and do the same thing here, and that should get rid of that warning. Next thing we need to do is print out the BMI value. So we'll do print BMI and test this code. Enter your height in centimeters, 180, and let's say 83 kilograms. Now that's BMI is 25.61. Nothing wrong with this. I just want a few cosmetic things to improve here. I just want 2 decimal places to be shown, and instead of plainly showing the number, I also want to show what the number means. BMI is, and then print out the BMI. For the 2 decimal places rounding, we can just simply use round, and it will take 2 parameters. The first is the value, and the second is the number of decimal places. Let's give it a try again. 180 centimeters and 80 kg. Our BMI is 24.69. Now we need to make an improvement to this and say, hey, your BMI is this, but then based on this BMI, you are overweight, underweight, or whatever. For that, we will say if BMI is more than 0, we will do all these calculations. And on those calculations, we will first compare BMI value to under 16. If it is true, we will print a message saying you are malnutritioned. And we'll make a copy of this bit of code a few times, and instead of if, we will do elif in these instances. If less than 16, we're malnutritioned. If less than 18.5, we will be underweight. If less than 25, our message will say you have normal weight. BMI less than 30, the person will have overweight. The last thing is else. We will print you are obese. If the invalid input is provided, we will print a message. So this else condition is only for input validation. We'll simply say enter valid information here. Let's give it a try again. Enter your height in centimeters. So let's say this guy is 190, his weight is 86. Let's give it a few more run. 183 and 90 kilograms. That is overweight. And 180, 80. That is normal weight. So far so good on this code. Next, what I would like to do is change this from sequential programming to functional programming. We will divide the same code into a bunch of functions doing individual things and then use them later in a calculator function to then call all those individual functions and run our BMI calculator. So for that, first we will define get height and weight function for this chunk of code. So we will do that by function definition name get height weight and move all those under there. Now the only additional thing we need to do inside this function is return the value. So we will return the height in meters and weight in kg. And that should be all for that function. We will also have a different function to calculate BMI that is done in this line of code. So we will define that as calculate BMI. That will be our function name. So since weight and height are used in this calculation, we need to pass those as arguments when we make the call. We will provide height and also will provide weight. Now with that, we can move this print statement under that calculate BMI function and then return BMI as the value that is calculated. Now additional thing we need to do is this chunk of code that is using the BMI, we will convert that into another function definition. So we will say define obesity information. It will use that BMI as input, and then once the BMI is input, that BMI value will be used in all these calculations. This obesity information function will not return anything because all it is doing is receiving BMI as input and then printing all this information as output. Let's take a look at how far we have come. We have a function here that gets height and weight from the user as user inputs and returns those height and weight. Then we have another function that calculates BMI once we pass those height and weight and returns the BMI value as output. We have a third function, obesity information, that takes that BMI value as input and then prints out a statement whether we are obese, underweight, normal weight, or whatever. But we have not done any function calls yet. But before that, I want to create a few more functions. First of those will be to find normal weight range given a height, because ultimately we need to make a suggestion based on the current height and weight and BMI value whether the person is underweight or overweight. Then we need to tell them whether they need to reduce their weight or gain some weight to come back within the normal range. So we need to know the normal range first, and that is given by the normal weight range. And therefore we need to find the normal weight range before we do anything. So let's say define normal weight range function. And all that it needs is height in meters. For now, we will come back to this function definition and replace this pass with some other statements later on. But let's just keep on creating the functions that we need. We need to also define a function that makes suggestions. So let's just say that would be our suggest function. We will also pass this for now. We will also create another function that actually runs the BMI calculator, and we will just call that function BMI calculator or run BMI calculator, and also pass this for now. So we have defined 3 new empty functions with passive statements and nothing else. Let's take a look at this normal weight range function, or let's just say find normal weight range function. We'll replace the pass with actual statements here. What this function is doing is finding the normal weight range given the person's height. So for whatever height the person has, what is the maximum and minimum weight the person should have for the weight to be in this normal range. The maximum weight he can have is given by the BMI 24.99 basically, and the minimum weight he can have to avoid being underweight is above 18.51. So we will define 2 variables here, minimum weight equals to, and then maximum weight equals to. Based on the explanation earlier, our minimum weight should be 18.51 times height in meters to the power 2. And again, we want to round this to 2 figures. And we can do that with the round function similar to how we did earlier. And we can use the same bit of code here and paste for the maximum, and all we need to change is this value, so it should be 24.99. We are able to find the minimum weight and maximum weight the person can have to be within normal weight range. We will just print this statement with the information and then also return minimum W and max W. So in the print statement, what we can print is information like this. It would say normal weight range for your height is minimum weight in kilograms to maximum weight in kilograms. I feel like before populating our suggest function, we need to actually run our BMI calculator and test. So let's jump into BMI calculator. Here we will first have to call the first function, which is get height and weight function. And remember, this doesn't require any input, but it will return two values, height and weight. So we can simply copy and paste here the same variable names, and when we call that function, we will get those values. After that, we need to then use the calculate BMI function and use those two values as input. And also remember, it will return a BMI. So our BMI will be equal to calculate BMI height weight. This will also print BMI. So at this point, I think we can run and see an output. This was a function, so we need another code here to actually call this function that calls every other function. Run BMI calculator. Let's run it again. Okay, that's better. Enter your height in centimeters. So let's do 180 and 80, and BMI is 24.69. That's working fine, but we also want to see additional suggestions here. So we need to call this function within our run BMI calculator, and it would need height in meters. So that value we provide as an input here, and it will return minimum weight and maximum weight. That function call, it will actually print this statement. So this is all we wanted to test and see the output. Let's give it a run. Enter height 180 and 80 kg. Our BMI is 24.69, and normal weight range for your height is between this kilogram and this kilograms. We entered 80 kilograms, and that's within the range here. One last thing we need to do is suggest whether our weight is in normal weight range, and if not, then whether it's overweight or underweight, and how much of weight we need to gain or lose to be in the normal weight range. Let's take a look at the output here. So this is our BMI and this is our normal weight range. So we can actually compare BMI and find out whether we are underweight, overweight, and based on whether we are underweight or overweight, we need to spit out appropriate suggestion to the user. So one way to make this function is input BMI value and also input weight in kg. Now, first thing we would do is compare the BMI. If BMI is less than 18.5, that means they are below this minimum, so they need to gain weight. Current weight is below the minimum, so the additional weight we need to gain would be minimum weight minus the current weight. We will need minimum weight minus weight in kg. So we need to also pass minimum weight here. And for the other overweight condition, we also need maximum weight here as our input. So this will calculate the additional weight needed to be gained by the underweight person. We will also round this to two figures using similar method. And now we will print the information. You should gain the needed weight in kilograms to be normal weight. If BMI is more than or equal to 25, then I need to shed, so that would be round weight in kilograms minus max weight. The round would be two decimal places. And then print similar suggestions to the user. So instead of gain, we will say you should shed this kg to be normal weight. Let's see what else is missing. Do we need to update our run BMI calculator? Yeah, we need to call this function there. So obviously we need to update our BMI calculator. So let's give it a try. Height in centimeters, 190. Let's say the guy is 82 kilograms. BMI is 22. So interestingly, it's not showing us the suggestions. Why did this not print? So this function, obesity function. So did we never make a call? What does obesity need? Obesity needs BMI. So after we find BMI, we can add that obesity function call here. Let's give it one last run. Height in centimeters, 180. 90 kg, you are overweight because your BMI is above 25. This clearly shows us the normal weight range for the height. So 80.97 is the maximum he can have. He has 90. So he needs to shed that 9.03 kg from his current weight to go back to the normal weight. Run it again. Let's say 180 and he's only 60 kilograms. He has a normal weight and 18.52 is his BMI. No suggestion to lose or gain weight. Let's do a case for underweight. Let's say this guy is only 40 kg. He is malnutritioned. BMI is 11. Since he's only 40 kg and he needs minimum of 66.82, he needs to gain additional 26.82 kg to be normal weight. So I think that's all for this. It clearly shows you the current BMI value, whether you are overweight or underweight. It also shows you the normal weight range that you should have for your given height. And if you're not in that range, it will suggest you how much of weight you should gain or lose to come back to the normal weight. I hope this video was helpful and that you learned something new. If that's the case, don't forget to smash that like button. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. If you have any questions, don't forget to put them on the comment section below and I'll try to reply as soon as possible. As always, until next time, thank you.